Hello 10S and welcome to our second installment of TorahBash18. Today we are going to be reviewing the Aggaditas for the Lashon Nekiah Sugya on Daf Gimel Amid Bet and Dalet Amid Aleph. Special shout out to Talia Waitman, there's Talia right over there, and to Aaron Lauer. And let us begin. Before we begin, are there any questions? Oh yes, Tamari, question?
Rabbi, can this all be Lishma?
That is a great question, Tamari. Not sure how you got into my computer, but since you're here, the answer is Lishma is our hearts and our minds, not whether there's a test on it or not. So the answer is yes. Okay, let us begin. Okay. Hanhu Trei Tamidei. There were these two students, Dahavu, that were Yasve, sitting Kame de Rav, in front of Rav. Chadamar, one student said, Shavisinan hai shmaita. This particular topic that we're learning is making us, shaveh, makes me feel kedavar acher misankan, as tired as a davar acher, as a different thing, which is a euphemism for a pig, an unclean animal. V'chadamar, the other student said, Shavisinan hai shmaisa. This particular topic, kigedi misankan, is making me as tired as a kid, as a little goat. V'lo ishta Rav behade dehaich. But Rav did not pay attention any longer. Lo ishta, he didn't speak to behade to haich, that one, meaning the one who used the unclean language, the one who didn't use the Lashon Nekiah. Rav was upset that he used such a coarse language, and he did not speak to him afterwards. I don't know if that was forever, but for that moment to show his disapproval. Hanhu Trei Talmidei. There were these two students, Dahavu Yasve Kame de Hillel. They were sitting in front of Hillel. V'chad minayhu, and one of them, one of those two students, was Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. V'amrila, and some people tell this story with different characters. V'amrila, some say that Kame de Rebbe, that it happened in front of Rebbe, meaning not in front of Hillel. V'chad minayhu, and one of those two students was not Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai, but was just plain old Rebbe Yochanan. At any rate, Chadamar, one of the two students, said, Mifnei ma Botzrin betahara ve'ein Moskin betahara. Why is it, Mifnei ma Botzrin, why is it that when we harvest olives, betahara, you must use utensils, harvesting utensils that are pure? However, ve'ein Moskin betahara, but we don't harvest grapes with pure utensils. You could even use a utensil which isn't pure. So he had that question. V'chadamar, the other students asked the same question with a different language. Mifnei ma Botzrin betahara. Why is it that we have to harvest grapes with pure utensils? However, umoskin betuma, but we can harvest olives with tameh utensils, impure utensils. So they asked the same question, but one used a nice, refined language, and one used a coarser language, the word tameh. Amar, so the Rebbe in the story, depending on your version, if that would be Hillel or if that was Rebbe, he heard this conversation. He said, Muvtach ani, I am sure bazeh, about this one, meaning the one who used the clean language, Shemora hora b'Yisrael, that he will become a leader amongst the Jewish people. Literally, mora means he will pasken halacha, he will make hora'ah, rulings. He will lead rulings amongst the Jewish people. V'lo haya yamim muatim, and it was not too many days after that, it means it wasn't too long after that, that indeed it came true. Ad jehora hora'a Yisrael, b'Yisrael, until that particular student who used the refined language did indeed become a person who led the Jewish people. He became enough of a scholar to answer great questions that people had. In class, we discussed a little bit about Tumah v'Tahara here, and about how something can't become Tameh until it becomes in contact with the 7 liquids, which are remembered by the mnemonic Yad Shachad Dam, and how essentially when you harvest utensils, so when you harvest fruits, so the utensils squish the fruits a little bit. So grapes squish real easy, so a little bit of the liquid comes out of the grape. The grape, therefore, the mayim ends up on the utensil that you used. Since if the utensil were to be not pure, then the liquid which will have fallen on the grape, which is considered mayim, which is the mem of Yad Shachad Dam, would make the grape impure, and then you wouldn't be able to eat it. So that's why you have to harvest grapes with pure utensils. However, olives, they don't squish all that easy, and whatever liquid would come out of the olive is not halachically considered neither mayim, nor is it considered shemen, which is another one of the items that make something susceptible to tumah. So you don't have to be careful, and you can use tameh utensils to harvest the olives. Hanhu tlasa kahane. So the story, let's move on. There were these 3 kohanim. Now they were eating from the lechem hapanim, the very special bread that was in the shulchan, which was in the kodesh of the Beis Hamikdash. The kohanim used to take that bread out. So it was 12 loaves every single Shabbos, and they would distribute it amongst them and eat it. Chad amar lahu, one said to the other one, Hegiani kapul, it reached me like a bean. That means the piece of bread that came to me, that I received, was as small or as the size of a bean. V'chad amar Giani kizayed, and one said the piece that reached me is the size of an olive. V'chad amar Hegiani kizanav halta'a, and one said it reached me the size of the tail of a lizard. That was the size of the piece of bread that I got. So it's an impure animal, lizard. It's not appropriate to take something as holy as a lechem upon him and compare it to that. Badku acharav, they searched after this particular fellow, umatsu bo shemetz pasul, and they found about him a genealogical psul, thing that made him pasul, that made him no longer part of the kohanim. So Rashi there explains to us that that this person was in fact a chalal, shemetz pasul kahuna, something that made him not part of the kahuna. A chalal is somebody whose parents were not allowed to get married. A kohen is not allowed to marry certain people, a divorcee or a convert. The father did marry one of those people, so the children then are no longer considered kohanim, they're considered chalalim. So there's something about the idea that the father didn't respect the kahuna. As a result, the child apparently didn't respect the kahuna, and therefore he didn't have any problems comparing something holy like the bread to something impure like a lizard tail. So Gemara has a little problem with this. So Gemara says, V'hatnan, we changed that to time, but didn't we learn in the Mishnah, Ein bodkin min hamizbeach v'lamala? We don't check after somebody's genealogy from the point that we see that they service the mizbeach and onward. That means that once somebody is accepted to be a Kohen, we never double check to see if he's a Kohen. We let him go on with his life. But what happened in this story, this particular story, the guy was already serving in the mizbeach, he was already accepted as a Kohen, and then you searched after his background. So the Gemara gives 2 answers to this. The first answer is, you're right. So there was the story was told wrong. Lo tema shemetz pasul. Should have put a comma there. Don't say the story as they found a shemetz pasul with him, which meant like a genealogical defect. Ela ema shechetz pasul. But say that there was a character flaw. Shechetz, Rashi will tell us right here, means a character flaw. So meaning, no, they searched into him and they saw that he was an unrefined person. He was a totally kosher Kohen. But that there was something about his speech and his mannerisms which was just not appropriate. And that's why he spoke that way. Rashi, Shechetz pasul, hu atzmo haya gas ruach. He himself was gas ruach, means haughty, large of spirit. Umivazeh kadshe shemayim, and he was disgracing the holy things, kadshe shemayim, things that are kadosh. Ve'ein roya l'shamesh, and such a person is not fitting to serve in the Beis Hamikdash, k'dekay malan, as is established for us b'menachos, Mesachos Menachos, which deals with karbanos, says that a person who has very terrible character traits is not allowed to service in the Beis Hamikdash. Avoda hamasur levnei Aharon, the avoda which is given to the sons of Aharon, Kohen, levnei Aharon, Kohen she'ena modeh bekulan, a Kohen who doesn't admit to all of them, which means that he doesn't say, who doesn't agree to do all of the work that a Kohen is supposed to do. Af b'meguna shebehen, even the most, literally meguna means disgusting, meaning there were parts of things that the Kohen had to do. They had to skin animals, there was blood, there was stuff all over the place. So let's say a Kohen says, I want to do everything, but I don't want to do the meguna shebehen, like the schleppy, dirty work. Ein lo chelek b'kahuna, he's not allowed to be a Kohen. If a person if it isn't a joy and a pleasure to do every aspect of it, if he doesn't look at it as a privilege, so then he's not allowed to be involved in it. And that's what happened with this particular Kohen when they saw that he was very haughty, had poor character traits. Second answer to this question is v'ibayis amen. If you want, you can say that no, really it means they found a genealogical flaw. Why were you allowed to look for one? he had already been established? So the answer is Shani Hasam. It's different over there. This particular case is an exception to the rule. De'ihu, because he himself, De'ara Nafshe, made his own soul bad, meaning he sent up a red flag about himself. When you see a red flag, so then you are allowed to search into genealogical things. Hahu Arma, there was a certain Armenian non-Jew, Dehava Solik, who used to go V'achel and eat Pesachim B'Yerushalayim. He used to pretend he was a Kohen, sneak into the Beis HaMikdash and eat from the Karban Pesachs. Amar, and then when he was back home bragging about his exploits, he would say, Ksiv, it says in the Bible, Kol ben nechar lo yochal bo, any stranger, non-Jew is not allowed to eat from the Karban Pesach, and it also says Kol orel lo yochal bo, and any uncircumcised person is not allowed to eat from the Karban. Ve'ana and me, I'm both of those things. Haka'achina, I am eating me shufri shufri. Shapir means the best. So me shufre shufre. I'm eating from the very best of the for the karbanos. So look at me, I'm not even supposed to be here, and I'm eating the best cuts of meat. So he was bragging about this, and Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira apparently was listening in. So Amalei Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, Mika safulacha me alya. Have they ever fed you safulacha from the fat tail of the animal, of the lamb? Amalei lo. Oh, I've never had that cut before. So kikol sokol lehasam. When you go over there, he said to him, Emalahu, tell those kohanim, Safuli me alya. Hey, this year I'd like to taste from the alya. Go ask them for that. So Kisalik, when he went down there, Amar lahu, he said to the people, Me alya safuli, satiate me from the alya. So Amrulay, the Kohanim who were there, said to him, Alya legavoa salka. The fat tail of the lamb goes up on high. Salka, it goes up. Meaning the alya was never eaten by Kohanim. It wasn't allowed to be eaten by Kohanim. It was only put on Mizbeach. So they said to him, so bizarre. Why did you ask for that? Amrulay. So they said to him, Man amar laha hachi. Who told you like this? Who told you to ask for the alya? So Amar lahu, he answered them back, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. The big rabbi told me to do that. So Amru, so the Kohanim said to themselves, My hide dekaman. What is this in front of us? Like, what's going on here? Bud Kubatre, they searched into this fellow. The Ashkachuhu Darmahu. It turns out he wasn't even Jewish. They discovered that he was an Armenian. The Katzluhu. They killed him because he was eating for the karpanos. Sholchu leila Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. So then they sent a letter back to Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira that said, Shalom lacha Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. Peace to you, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. De'at ben Netzivin, that you are in the town of Netzivin. Umitzudazcha beprusa b'Yerushalayim. But your net spreads all the way to Yerushalayim. Rav Kahana Chalash. There was the next story. Rav Kahana got sick. Shadrua Rabbanan Rav Yeshua braids Rav Idi. So the rabbi sent Rav Yeshua, the son of Rav Idi, to visit him. Amrulay, and they said to him, Zil Bedok, my dine, go check what is his judgment, meaning how is Rav Kahana doing. Ata, by the time that Rav Yeshua braids Rav Idi got there, Ashkechi denaf nashe. Ashkechi, he found denach nafshe. His soul had already passed away. Rav Kahana already passed away. Kar ele levushe, he ripped his garments, which is a sign of mourning that a person does for their parents, or for their main Rebbe, or for the greatest sages of the Jewish people. He ripped his clothing. And then v'ahadre, but then he put it back. He returned the rip back, so his garment looked like it wasn't ripped. Ahadre lekriye, he returned it back. La'achore, sorry guys. Ahadre, he returned lekriye, the rip, la'achore, backwards. He put it back. Ubachi, and he was crying, v'ati, and he was walking. He came to his fellow sages. So they could tell by his, as he was walking, they could tell by his crying, by his demeanor, that something went wrong. So Amrle nach nafshe, did he pass away? So Amrlehu, he said to them, Ana lo kamina, I did not tell you that, even though it happens to be true, but I didn't say it. You're the one who said it, because umotse diba, somebody who says a bad thing, huksil, he is a fool. And that's a pasuk in Kohelet. So the idea is basically saying, I didn't want to be the one bearing the bad news, so I had to tell it to you, but I didn't want to be the one to say it explicitly. Rashi explains that the reason he put back the tear is because he didn't want to shock them. Shalo yavinu maher, they shouldn't understand it so quickly. lahade, immediately v'yatza libam, and their heart would leave them, meaning they'd get very sad. And in class we discussed different examples in Tanakh where this happened. Just one we said, like when Hashem asked Avraham to sacrifice Yitzchak, he said, Bincha Yechidcha Yitzchak. He didn't say it